G'day humans, Chris Stead here. Today I'm reviewing what they call the Sonos In Ceiling Kit, which is the Sonos In Ceiling Speakers and the Sonos amplifier. Let's do it. So my journey with these speakers actually started quite a number of months ago, and those of you who are familiar with my channel will know that last year I had a catastrophic house fire, and so we went through a big rebuild. Now part of that house fire was I had Crick's speaker system set up in the roof. They got destroyed, had to be replaced. And so I was looking for an alternative, and I landed on the Sonos In Ceiling Kit. Now there's a couple of reasons why I ended up going that direction. Now the first reason is because I had to replace all the gyprock that you can see on the roof here, and that's allowed me to get access to where the old speakers were, put through the cable. So I had kind of in-roof access. So we're on the first floor here, I've got a second floor above, and I was able to get into that cavity, and so that I had an opportunity to put in new speakers properly. Two is I've been doing a lot of Sonos reviews lately, and the Sonos products that I get, I just continually am impressed by the audio quality that comes out of them. They really do deliver a extremely well balanced audio experience. And finally, because I'm now starting to build a few Sonos devices into the house, I've got a bit of an ecosystem happening. I wanted to have a in-ceiling speaker experience that actually fit in with the ecosystem I was also building in other areas in the house. If you have a look down here, for example, I've got a Sonos Arc soundbar, I've got a Sonos mini sub here as well. I find that Sonos, I still find that Sonos has almost a completely different language to it when it comes down to setup and understanding how it all works. And if you're a newcomer and you first come into the Sonos ecosystem, it can be quite difficult. It just doesn't behave like other speaker systems and other ecosystems do, and you can get very frustrated in the app just trying to work out how to make things connect to each other, how to make everything do what you want it to do. Now that's definitely gotten a lot better, and I've definitely got a lot better at understanding that language. There was an app that came out in early 2023 alongside the Sonos Ace, and that kind of threw a lot of people for six. The company almost had to start again. And in fact, I've got a video up on my channel that I put up recently about Sonos' 7 steps they've put forward to basically building consumer trust again around the app experience. But you know, I don't find it that bad, to be honest. But a lot of people really struggle with the new Sonos app. So my initial experiences with Sonos weren't great, but they've just been getting progressively better. So that's why I ended up going with the Sonos In Ceiling Kit. And in this review, we're going to explain to you whether or not it's actually hit the mark and deliver what I was hoping it would deliver. Let's begin with the price. So there are a 6-inch variant. There's a 6-inch variant of the In Ceiling speakers and an 8-inch variant of the In Ceiling speakers. So the 8-inch variant kit, you get 2 speakers. And I should say this is a collaboration with Sonos and Sonance. So it's a kind of a collaboration, these speakers, and it's part of their architectural range because it's kind of like something that's, I guess, inbuilt. So the 2 8-inch speakers with the amplifier will set you back $2,799, so quite a buy-in. If you get the 6-inch kit, I think it goes down to $2,200, might be $2,300. Yeah, $2,200, I'm pretty sure, if you got the 6-inch variant. Now, obviously, the main difference between the 8 and the 6-inch is basically the bigger the speaker, the more power it's got. That's the critical difference in what you're seeing in the price. But you can also get, on top of that, just a pair of speakers. And the pair of speakers will set you back, I'm testing my memory now, I think it's $15.99 for just these 2 speakers. Almost positive that's what it is. So you get these 2 speakers. Now the amplifier itself can hold 6 speakers. So what I've done is if you have a look up here, I've got 1 speaker here. In this space, I've got 2, 3, or your left. And over here, I've got 1, 2, and up here, 3. And so that's your right. So I've got 6 speakers. Now, if you come in and have a look at the amp here, you'll see I've got all of them fed in with a billion other cables, but I've got all of them fed in to basically your right and your left. So I've got 3 of the speakers on right and 3 of the speakers on left for stereo. That's the amp down. I've obviously got it turned around so you can see the back of it right now. That's the expression, that's where I've ended up, that's what I've set up. So let's have a deeper look into the specifications. So because I'm reviewing the 8-inch variant, I'll just stick with the 8-inch specs. Now the 8-inch refers to the 8-inch polypropylene woofer. It's also got a 1.2-inch tweeter as well. It's got a 29 hertz to 20 kilohertz range, decibel range. Now that's with the DSP turned on. So actually in the app you've got speaker detect. If you turn that on, it accesses the digital signal processor, the DSP, which is available through the app, and it will kind of actively work then to fine tune your equalizer and kind of give you that range. You've got 8 ohms of power, 100% asymmetric coverage. So basically that means that you're going, there's no I guess dead spot facing down from the speakers. You've got true play support through the app. Size-wise, the diameter is 11.16 inches or 283.5 millimeters, and it's a depth of 5.32 inches, 135 millimeters. It weighs 4.1 kilograms each, but it only comes in white, but most roofs are white. So those are specs for the speakers. For the amp, you're looking at 125 watt continuous power per channel at 8 ohms. It's got the app support, which is where you're going to find your equalizer, be able to turn on all of your settings, including the DSP and also through speaker detect, and also true play. You've got a line in, you've got an HDMI in. It operates on banana plugs. You can also connect with the likes of Apple AirPlay 2 and over Wi-Fi. You can actually voice control this too if you've got a suitable receiver like some of the Sonos speakers, and also Alexa devices, Google Nest, that type of thing. It does have touch controls on the front, and it's also rack mountable. It's got a rack mountable design. As mentioned, it connects with the broader Sonos ecosystem, plus it's stereo, PCM, Dolby Digital and DTS Digital Surround enabled. Okay, well let's touch on the design. Obviously there's not a whole lot to talk about, but we have a look up at the speaker here, which I feel is pretty sleek, pretty slim in design, fits in pretty nicely with any real standard white ceiling paint. It's going to blend in. If you look from the side a little bit, it's a very, very thin profile on it. Now it's worth noting as well that inside the actual device, you've only got 13 centimeters of deepness with the actual speaker. Now that's definitely worth talking about, because the LVLs in a if you've got nothing above you, it's just your roof cavity, you've got all the room in the world to play with, it's easy. In fact, the installation is going to be quite easy for you. But if you're like I am and you're installing between subfloors, that's good having that kind of more squatter design, because basically, depending on how much you're holding up, your LVL is probably going to be about 240. So to have 13 centimeters of speaker gives you 13 centimeters of play above that. That's just going to give you a bit of air, some space to deal with any sort of heat, maybe allow that to disperse through your subfloor, or allow you to put some insulation up there, a bit of sound screen, something like that, just to help block out the sound from going upstairs. Because I will say, when you've got the speakers on in the subfloor, it's quite loud and audible upstairs. So for example, if you want to use this maybe in a home theatre system, or at night when you're maybe having dinner with your partner or something like that, you want some speakers in the background, the kids are sleeping upstairs, they're going to hear it. So having that amount of play and space in your installation process, I think is a really good thing. I've had other speakers that really push right up and leave you very little play on top. It is worth noting, however, that the speaker in itself isn't angled in any way, and some other competitors in the space will sell you angled speakers. So the idea is if you're on a hardwood floor or tiles, something like that, you can basically bounce it at an angle, the sound, so it's not bouncing straight back into itself. However, I do wonder with the true play and the way that operates, whether it'll actually make a difference anyway. Now, if we're going to have a look at the amp itself, obviously very small for an amplifier. And I'll see if I can turn it around for you so you can have a look at the front. There, so it actually looks probably more like a router than it does an amplifier. Quite small. You'll notice some touch buttons on the top. It's got a bit of a Darth Vader vibe going. It's got a bit of weight in it. It's pretty heavy, but it's pretty nice and sleek. Cooler than your average looking amp, that's for sure. No dials or anything like that. It's all done through the app for the most part, just some very basic controls on the top here. It could be nice if they had a slightly bigger boot on it, like just a bit more rubber, just to get some airflow under there, help with some heat dispersion. That would have been potentially nice. But otherwise, you know, on the design front, that's more or less what you're looking at. Not a whole lot going on, but I think they've done a really good job with what they've actually got. And yeah, like I mentioned at the top, there's only a white variant for the roof, so maybe a black would have been nice, something that could have blended in if you were happy to have an indoor-outdoor area where you might not be going with your traditional ceiling colors of white. That would be nice, but there's probably just such a small market for it, it's not worth it anyway. So let's talk about the performance. And most of the experience here is done through the app, in fact, pretty much all of it. And as I mentioned at the top, there's been some dramas around the app recently, and I do encourage you to go check out those other videos I've done around the app, just to kind of get your head around it. But like I mentioned as well, I personally wasn't that affected by it. A lot of the features that were missing that really upset people weren't features that I used regularly anyway. The app still has those kind of hidden gremlins in it that are just the Sonos language, I'd like to call it, which can make it frustrating. But once you're into it and you actually work out how it all works, I find the app to be pretty solid. And it's definitely been updated a lot because of the dramas. They are on it and they are doing a lot of updates and really going to improve it, probably a lot more than the original roadmap would have allowed them to do. But yeah, in terms of like the sound quality, really happy with it. The Sonos across the board just do such a well-rounded, soulful sound, very balanced. It doesn't overdo it with the bass, which must be tempting because you hear that bass, but Sonos does a really good job at kind of evening that out. I definitely noticed a big difference when I turned on the DPS, so that's the speaker detect and True Play. Once I actually did that and it started to understand my environment and really plug into that, that's where I really started to get much better sound. And so I highly encourage you to do that as soon as you kind of set it all up. Elsewhere, what I've really loved about, other than just being able to just switch on the ceiling speakers from my phone when I'm coming and making dinner and just suddenly have a room that's just filled with perfect audio, with perfect audio, is I'm loving the way that it combines with the ecosystem. So like I mentioned at the top here, I do have the Sonos Arc here. I've got this mini sub down at the bottom, and it's been great how well that integrates with each other. So what I can do basically is when I'm sitting there watching the TV and I've got the Sonos Arc doing its thing, the sub doing its thing, I can just tap a button on the app and then play whatever's happening on my TV suddenly through all the roof speakers as well, even though there's no connection between the two. So Sonos Amp is able to connect to the Sonos ecosystem wirelessly through the app, and then you can just pick and play wherever you're picking and playing things. You can just add the ceiling speakers into the mix at any point. So whether you've got a party, you want to have the ceiling speakers, you want to have it on here, you want to have it on a move outside, or you might have an era in the other room, something like that. You can all just piece it all together, and that kind of ecosystem experience is what is so cool about Sonos. But also now having that in the ceiling speakers as well has just taken that experience for me to another level. Now, it's not perfect. In this day and age, when we've got Dolby Atmos, we've got spatial audio, 3D audio, all this kind of fantastic surround sound experiences happening, the fact that an amplifier, $1,000 plus amplifier, only has those 2 channels, I think is a bit of a shame. I think potentially Sonos could have just put in at least 6 channels, I think would be good, because it can take 6 speakers and just allow it to use True Play and use these things to be able to better just move the sound around the room and just play with that signal a little bit, because how this roof speaker is sitting over carpet, my roof speaker over there is sitting on the hardwood floor, it's in a bit more of a spacious area. So, that speaker probably wants to adapt a little bit differently to this one. When I start moving it through the TV and I plug the TV into it, it can only do left and right, even if my Arc is trying to bounce, so it's just not that's where it's kind of letting itself down a little bit. And there's a few other things that potentially they could be putting into this device, like Bluetooth might be something to just think about. I haven't necessarily needed it, but Bluetooth would be a thing to put into this device that might give it a bit more flexibility for consumers. On top of that, it would have been really interesting to see what they could have done with the speakers in the roof actually being wireless. That would have done potentially a lot for a lot of people. It would have made the installation process so much easier. There must be, maybe there's something I don't know about. I'm not saying there must be a reason, but considering that everything else in the Sonos ecosystem is all just wireless and just talking, if you can get power to those spots, maybe you don't have to run cables all the way. It might just help the installation process a little bit better. On top of that, the other thing that really kind of annoyed me a bit was that the subs, and this could be something they could fix with firmware, but the subs have to be linked to a certain Sonos device. So this sub here is linked to the Arc. And when I'm kind of got this, when I go, well, I'm not watching a TV right now, I just want to listen to music in my room, I can't just move the sub and sit it against the in-roof speakers. What I have to do, or the amp effectively, what I have to do is de-pair it from the Arc and then repair it to the amp. Then I can have sub with my audio that I'm listening to, and then when I sit down and watch the TV, I've got to unpair it from the amp and then repair it with the Arc. So then that, again, that's something that's a little bit clunky that potentially Sonos can work on. It does feel like that's the type of thing that might be firmware updatable. At the end of the day, choosing in-ceiling speakers is a bigger deal than, say, choosing a soundbar, because you're going to be punching holes in your gyprock and installing these things in your roof. So you want to get it right. But I've been really happy with the Sonos experience. And it's not just because it delivers really good audio, which it does, it's because of the way that it integrates with the broader ecosystem and just makes everything better just by being, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm really happy that I went with the Sonos option, and I think they're delivering. I do think that it's potentially more expensive than it should be. You know, to this entire setup, to have the $2,700 amp and 2 speakers, then to get another 2 speakers for $1,600 and another 2 speakers for $1,600, it's obviously really adding up. So you're gonna have to be really into your music to spend that type of money, and potentially for that money, some of the things that I mentioned that could have potentially been built into the amp, possibly should be in future iterations. But, you know, still, I am enjoying what I've got for that price. So anyway, that's my review of the Sonos In Ceiling Speakers, the Sonos in collaboration with Sonance In Ceiling Speakers, and the Sonos Amp, which allows them to work. I hope that was of use to you. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you check out my other videos, and until next time, I will check you later. You!